everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 18th to Thursday the 21st of April 2022. And I cannot do this alone. My name is Alex, by the way, and I cannot do this alone. I need a man. I need a man with a plan. I need a man with brand new specs. And here he is. It's Rob.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Good afternoon, Alexander. I hope you're well, and I hope you had a nice birthday. You're old now.
I am old. I did have a nice birthday, and Rob, you did get me a very nice card. Before we started, we said about Rob's very nice card. I haven't just remembered. I said at the time I haven't got it with me. I was going to run downstairs before I press record, and I have just remembered that again. So what I'll do is I'll post it on Twitter, and I'll let everyone see it on our Twitter at Walford Weekly. It's a lovely card. It needs to be seen. It's the size of me. It was so big. It wouldn't fit in our letterbox. The postman had to knock on the door and actually hand it to me. Well,
you know me. I love a good entrance. Yes, as Alex said, also, I also got new specs this week. So for the people that watch us, this is a new visual treat for you. For the people that don't, just imagine the most gorgeous pair of specs you've ever seen in your lives. I was telling Alex before we started recording, these are very clever specs. These, when it's sunny, they go dark. They are sunglasses and normal glasses all in one. What will they think of next, Alex? I didn't know that sort of thing was possible. Madness.
Well, witchcraft. Witchcraft magic. It is down there at Specsavers.
All the awards.
Absolute magic. Oh, yes. All the awards. Hey, you know what? We'll be talking about someone who deserves all the awards, or a writer, I should say, deserves all the awards this week, because we've had some cracking lines this week on EastEnders. And
yes,
sorry, no, sadly not yet, Rob. Not yet, Rob. There's still time for you to get there, exactly. But we of course we're going to be talking about the return of the iconic Sam Mitchell. However, we will leave that to a little bit later on, because we have other stories to talk about first of all. And we are going to start with Rainie, Stuart and Vi. And Rainie's feeling a little bit tired, a little bit like she's not being a very good mother. And Vi's, as much encouragement as she can give, she can only be as encouraging as one loud-voiced Nan can be. So she's kind of prompted Stuart to kind of get up and do more, but this might be a mistake, because she's also encouraged him to then take more of his painkillers, because this week he has shown physically that he's not in a good state. So do you think Vi was right to kind of intervene with the relationship and the baby Roland this week?
Well, I mean, the way you're saying it, the answer that I'm supposed to give is clearly no. I think what Vi is trying to do is trying to be the caring grandmother. She's trying to keep her family stuck together. Yes, perhaps when she talks a little bit louder than most people do, it's not great for a sleeping baby. I accept that, I like this story a lot, actually. I think that Stuart, this whole thing with Stuart is really interesting, because obviously he's not sure whether he's going to have chemo yet. My question is, actually, regarding Vi sort of offering painkillers and stuff, does Vi know all the history of Stuart's drug taking? Like, is she fully aware of all his drug history?
I got the impression that she has been told pretty much enough to know that, he should be kept an eye on if he's going to take these drugs. So, because she was there for the conversation when Stuart kind of opened up to Rainie, saying that, I'm afraid of having the operation. And ultimately, I think it was Vi who kind of encouraged him to end up getting the operation. So I think Vi knows enough, or knows better than to kind of push this box of drugs. But I think she sees Rainie in such a difficult situation, and it's lovely, this relationship between Rainie and Vi. I must say, I love that she's they've instantly kind of bonded with one another, and she's supporting her. And I think that she's so sympathetic toward Rainie. She thinks that, almost old-fashionedly, that she thinks that Stuart needs to step up. Besides, almost to say, just forget your drug problem. You can get over it. You've gotten over it. Just take some, make yourself better, so you can now give Rainie a hand. Because I think Stuart at the moment is just in bed a lot. He's feeling unwell. He's in pain. I mean, you've got to feel sorry for Stuart as well, because he's in a really tricky situation. He's got this newborn baby. He needs to look after his wife, his baby, and just had this major operation, and now looking at getting chemo as well.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not going easy for him. Little things keep happening to sort of trigger this quite a lot of chest pain that he keeps getting. They ordered a new cot, and they go upstairs, and delivery men had no interest in taking the cot upstairs because they were parked on yellows. I've never met a load of delivery men in my life who cared about where they're parked. Half the time, delivery drivers will just park in the street. Screw the consequences and just let people drive round them. So if Walford delivery drivers are up there with people who actually obey the Green Cross code, I will be amazed. But he had to carry
delivery
this
drivers love to
quite heavy
park
cot
outside of a Greggs and get themselves a sausage roll, don't they?
Yes, yes, they do. Yeah. Same though, to be fair. Same. Yes. So Stuart had to carry this quite heavy cot upstairs. Didn't go well for him. He managed to get the cot up, but obviously, it was a lot. He was in a lot of pain afterwards. He tried to go to a meeting for a drug thing. Apparently, the drug meetings have been moved because they kept overrunning into another class. But very helpfully, there was a cleaner there who went, "Oh, I've got really strong painkillers. I've got Zapane or something in my handbag. Why don't you have some of them?" And Stuart had to sort of walk away from that. So I think basically the idea is that there's a lot of temptations. It turns out there's quite a lot of legal pill pushers living around Walford as well. So that's going to be an added temptation. Yeah. Any nan who's just kind of walking around going, "Oh, I've got pills, love. I take them for my sciatica, but you have some. You'll be absolutely fine." So eventually, I think it's going to come to pass that Stuart is going to get addicted to the painkillers again, isn't it? Eventually, because you can see the temptations there. He's already becoming addicted to something that he hasn't even really begun taking yet. So as soon as he starts getting painkillers down him, I don't think this is gonna go well. I think the highways are in for a bit of a rough few months ahead. And Vi will step up, and Vi will deliver, and Vi will be a fabulous nan to the highways. And by the time the storyline's finished, you will love her. I guarantee it. You will absolutely love Vi when this is done. Bookmark me.
I must say, I loved Vi when she was talking to Rainie this week and talking about Baby Roland. I feel like Vi is kind of like juggling all the plates. She's kind of keeping everyone in line, which is kind of what I wanted Vi's character to be. Just not with so much ordering around. Do you know what I mean? To kind of almost a bit more delicately kind of doing it. Yeah. So I'm liking that she's kind of taking this, and I feel so bad for Stuart because it's so difficult, as you say, so much temptation. Like alcoholics on Albert Square, there's pill pushers as well. And you're right. There's lots of people who like to keep their like pills, even though they've expired, in a little drawer and like hand them out to people as kind of like a pain relief. Or they're going, "Oh, yes, I just take these for this and the other." It's a completely different ailment, but you can try them and see how they work. But it's just what people do. So it feels like a really nice reflection.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if Sharon will have a little word in Stuart's ear as well, because obviously she had that addiction problem as well. She almost had it again after Denny's death. So
I'd quite like that.
Sharon's got lots and lots of problems at the moment. But I reckon she could.
Sharon's already dealing with an addict in her house. She doesn't want to start with another one. She's not opening a rehab clinic, is Sharon. She's got enough on her plate.
No. Which reminds me, actually, funny enough, this has got nothing to do with the story, but on this week's episode, they referenced the fact that when Sam took a drink at the Vic, she said, "Oh, lukewarm, just the way the Vic likes it." And I thought of you there, Rob, because you said last week on the podcast that Sharon only serves her Chardonnay in a lukewarm room temperature. And so it must be just an Albert Square thing again. It just...
There you go. No one's got. That's the thing, because the Albert Square stress levels are so high. No one's got time to chill white wine. Sometimes they haven't even got time to put it anywhere. They just take the cork out and just neck it from the bottle. So for the people of Albert Square to be I think it's almost turned into an evolutionary thing in the people of Albert Square. They've become used to non-chill temperatures. No one ever chills champagne whenever they're celebrating. Have you got any champagne, mate? Yeah, here, straight out the cupboard. Have that. It's just an evolutionary thing.
So coming up next then is Jean's story. She's unravelling more and more as the weeks go on. We're kind of with the status quo still. It's just we've moved on a little bit where Stacey almost convinced Jean to kind of take the help, but then made the mistake of phoning an ambulance and making up that Jean had deliberately self-harmed herself, which then immediately made Jean then kind of backstep and she reported Stacey. And now Stacey has been taken in for questioning, and she is obviously on parole at the moment, so she could get in further trouble now by her doing that. But I mean, it's even everyone's seeing it now, and loads of people seem to be going to Stacey, and Stacey quite rightly this week kind of said to Shirley, I've been saying this for weeks. No one's listening to me. Why are people now paying attention to it? Because everyone seems to be noticing it, but no one seems to be wanting to help Stacey out. So I feel like Stacey's kind of backed herself into a bit of a corner here, and she's on her own.
Mm. Yeah, this story was really, really good this week. I enjoyed it a lot. Jean is, unraveling is the word. Like a massive ball of yarn. She's getting more and more frantic. She's getting more and more hectic. I think she's just becoming more and more noticeable, isn't she? But the fact is that she went uptown with Shirley to sort of go to do shopping for the wedding. They ended up being caught by the amazing jeweller who we hoped would make a return, and she did in fabulous fashion.
Yes.
We like that jeweller. I want her and her big butch girlfriend to move into number 1 Albert Square and become regular characters. That's what I want because she's amazing. Like
it's the only route they could take from now.
I think yeah, absolutely. It's the only thing that makes sense. My favourite line being, "All right, Helen Mirren." Liked that. Honestly, we like her a lot. Bring her back. So Jean was about to get arrested for stealing this ring last week. And then, I wasn't quite. It seemed at the start when she had a little breakdown in the jeweller's shop, I thought she was just faking it, and I thought she was just going, screw it, let's pretend I'm having a heart attack. But by the end of it, it seemed that she was quite emotionally upset. So I wasn't sure because it's like I didn't think for a second there was anything wrong with her heart because of the way that she just suddenly went, "Oh, my heart!" and then kind of collapsed to the floor. But then by the end of it, she was kind of really crying and really. I mean, I've done that, but really crying and upset. And Shirley was quite disturbed by it. So, what actually happened there? Do you think? Did she maybe start to fake it, but then sort of started to believe her own story, or what do you think was going on?
I think that she just got herself so worked up and so overwhelmed by the situation that actually when she may have, she learned from the best, Big Mo, to pretend that she was having a heart attack or having a heart problem and falling to the floor. And I think that, so that was, I don't know if that was intentional. And I know we kind of jokingly say, no, nothing's intentional on the soap at the moment. But, it felt like there was maybe a link there because Jean always used to take the mick out of Big Mo, almost faking things in order to get out of trouble. And I think that she realised that it wasn't working, and because it wasn't working, that then made her get overwhelmed, and that then it was a real thing. She was getting kind of hepped up and really hectic, and starting to show signs of panic and, lack of a better term, craziness, which really upset Shirley as well. And the second time it happened as well, when she was obviously being questioned by the police and by the ambulance crew when they arrived after she had accidentally, but Stacey had said she had on purpose, burnt her hand. Poured hot water on her hand. She, you could see the emotion from Shirley, and you're right. I thought it was so good. It was so nice seeing this friendship. Last week we said, why Shirley not had more involvement, and she's had it in spades this week, and it was really great to see that Shirley had this investment, and afterwards, after Jean had kind of then gone a bit AWOL, and she, the ambulance crew had left. She was still talking to Stacey about it. And that's what I like too, that she was still trying to figure out a plan with Stacey. And so I'm presuming that now Shirley's going to help Stacey get out of maybe her legal situation in one way or another. Maybe.
What I would say is that one of my highlights for this storyline this week was Lily. Because there was an amazing scene on Monday where she went to see Jean, and Jean's busy spending Harvey's credit card left, right, and centre. So I'm wondering whether that's going to kind of be reacted to at some point. I'm pretty sure Harvey's not exactly the richest bloke in the world. She's busy spending his money on amazing wedding dresses, amazing bridesmaids dresses, and Lily. You would think Lily. Since kind of this Lily has come back, you would have thought that this Lily would be sort of like, oh great, yeah, I'm going to wear a posh dress, cheers nanny, yeah, great, fantastic. But actually, she acted a lot more mature about it and realised that something was clearly wrong with Jean, went to Stacey and went, yeah, you're absolutely right. But my bigger question is that going to be me one day? Fantastic. Absolutely loved it. It's such a great thing for Lily to ask. Of course you would wonder that, because Jean's got it and Stacey's got it. And frankly, we've wondered in the past whether one day Lily will get it. So the fact that Lily was actually scared and worried, and she's looking at Jean and thinking, God, is that going to be me? Is that something that I thought that was absolutely brilliant? I absolutely loved that scene. But it's a good question. Is Lily ever going to get it, do you think?
Oh, I mean, that's That's a $1 million question. I suppose we may not find out for a little while. I mean, when Lily was first reintroduced as the new face, Lily, she was very feisty, very kind of everyone said, oh, she's very much like her mum. They've softened her a lot. I've noticed recently. When she was
I
talking,
prefer this.
talk. I prefer this as well. She's still got this. She's still got that little spiky side, and you could see that she was very
Stacey-ness to
excited
her,
when
yeah.
Jean kind of offered her to be a bridesmaid. But then when she took a step back and kind of maturely kind of saw it from the outside in and kind of thought, oh, actually, but hang on, this is quite frightening to watch. I mean, she was the one who got Stacey to confess that she had lied. She said to her she had lied because she was getting very kind of upset seeing her Nan like this as well, and she didn't like her seeing her like this. But then later again, honestly, kudos to how this was performed. There wasn't any shouting match or anything between Lily or Stacey. It was just Stacey just said, you know what, I did there. That was silly. It was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. Lily's like, you know what, I completely forgive you. Hug. Lovely. Scene. Perfect. And I think I just love the fact that there's this kind of bondage, and this family kind of connection that they're which is what I love. I love sorry, bond, not bondage. That's probably the wrong thing to say. But yes, I love this.
Something very different.
I love about the show, and this is I've been kind of championing, kind of going back to its kitchen sink roots.
Yes. It was great. Really, really strong story all week, actually. Really, really strong storyline all week. I'm really intrigued to see where this goes, because actually I wondered whether this whole sort of Stacey ringing the police and paramedics, I wondered whether they were going to go down sort of replicating that classic scene of Stacey being sectioned in the square and the police having to drag her and her going, Bradley! All that sort. I wondered if they were going to try and mirror that, but it didn't seem to go there. Although it does seem that Jean isn't a million miles away from that, because she, now she's, sending the police around to Stacey's door when she knows that she's still on parole. So the Jean and Stacey's relationship, I wonder, is it going to be able to survive this? Once Jean has been treated and once Jean has been sort of looked after and realised that everything's going to go, do you think that there's going to be moments in there through this storyline that is actually going to damage their relationship?
Well, between Stacey and Lily, or between Stacey and Jean?
No, between Stacey and Jean.
Between Stacey and Jean. I mean, their relationship is quite damaged now, thanks to Jean. Jean's kind of taken this very dark look towards Stacey. I would hope that once Jean's kind of going back onto the right track, that she would see the error of her ways and she would understand what Stacey was trying to do for her the whole time. I think there is always that understanding between them. And they're always there looking out for one another. Jean's always looking out for Stacey. Stacey's always looking out for Jean. And I think similar to what I just said with the bondage, with Stacey and Lily, they forgave each other. They hugged, and that they didn't need to say anything else to each other. That was that. And I think that's where Jean and Stacey will go in the end, because they've been through this before. They've had this before. Jean's had this with Stacey. We were introduced to Stacey because this was happening to her with Jean, and I just think I think they're gonna be okay, and I hope they'll be okay, and I think they're gonna be even stronger because of it. And and then maybe we'll then take the kind of the story might go down the direction then where they kind of investigate Lily and whether she perhaps might be going might have.
I absolutely loved that Lily asked that. I was literally watching that on Monday. Monday's episode was brilliant, and I was literally watching that scene, kind of leaning forward, like absolutely absorbed, because it was just such a perfect thing for Lily to ask at that moment. And it's something that like the past few years have sort of like those sort of softer character moments have sort of shied away from. So that was just absolutely perfect. Like, of course, a kid of Lily's age would look at her mother, would look at her grandma, because I don't really think that Lily remembers all that much of Stacey's episodes, because she was quite a little girl, when Stacey was kind of standing on the roof and praying to God and all that sort of thing, with the postpartum psychosis. I think Lily was a bit young to remember that. So this is the first time I think that she has been old enough to really appreciate bipolar within her family. So for her to be witnessing this is quite scary, because she's suddenly seeing a complete personality shift to people that she has grown to love and know over the years. And she's seen the effect that has now had on Stacey, watching her mum do that, because remember, Stacey has also said that this week she reckons that this is probably Jean's worst episode ever.
Yeah.
Of course it is. So all in all, this is this is really, really good. This is really, really strong stuff. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this is going to go. Bring it on next week, absolutely. Well done, EastEnders. You're doing this fantastically. I approve. Yes, well done.
Well done indeed, absolutely.
Look at our faces. Look at our grinning faces. Look what you've done to us. Yes!
We're beaming. One more, a very short story then we're going to quickly talk about before we get into the big one. And that is Bernie and Dotty and Vinny. And essentially Bernie and Dotty make an agreement that Bernie will give up the strike. They've now unionised, which is outrageous. And Vinny told Dotty that he loved her.
There's a bondage between them in the company.
And there certainly was a bondage between them. And Vinny tells Dotty he loves her. Dotty kind of panics. Bernie immediately senses that Dotty isn't really into Vinny. But Dotty's really got herself into the family of Panasar, hasn't she? Because she was cooking with Suki this week and they were having a conversation. Suki seemed quite keen on her and quite liked her.
That's a show.
And
Cooking with Suki, that's a good show.
I'd watch that. Ready, steady, Suki. And
yeah, I'd watch that.
and Kheerat
come Suki with me. Come dine with Suki.
Dine with Suki. And Kheerat came back this week as well. And he and you can see again a nice little family situation where he came back and they had that jokes. Suki was having a nice conversation with Dotty. It's so nice that there's the light with the dark, the light with the shade. You know, so we had some kind of darker moments this week with the kind of the bigger story, but these nice little light moments, even though the undertones there is that, you know, Dotty's going to break Vinny's heart big time. And this time it's not just Vinny that's going to get her, the whole family are going to get her.
And thereby Dotty's going to get her, because you don't mess with the Panasars. I think Suki's going to step up when that happens. I think what's going to happen is, I think she is sort of seeing Vinny as sort of almost like the injured chick of the family, and that he's quite easy to take advantage of. Because we were wondering last week sort of how genuine Dotty really was in her feelings towards Vinny. Like, I was starting to wonder whether he'd really grown on her. I'm fairly sure they haven't even slept together yet, apart from that one time on the sofa when they had grief sex, because grief sex is hot sex, as we know from EastEnders.
As we know.
But I don't think that they've really done that much together, as we know. But I don't think that they've really done that much together since. You know, when Dotty moved in, Suki made it quite clear that that's your room, that's Vinny's room, and never the twain shall meet. So I do wonder whether Dotty's been spending effectively more time with Suki than she has with Vinny. But I think that if and when she screws Vinny around and lets him down, she's going to feel the might of the Panasars falling upon her. Suki is not a good enemy. Suki is not a good enemy to have, and I think Suki will be even worse, because I think Suki has actually let her in, and Suki is going to would be annoyed at herself for falling for it. So there'll be double barrels coming from Suki. Dotty has not got a good time coming her way. No. If our suspicions come to pass, Dotty is in for a rough few months. So bring that on, because frankly, I've been feeling more and more sorry for Vinny as time went on. When did Vinny get so cute? I think you can have Kheerat and I can have Vinny, because Vinny is adorable.
Oh, he's lovely, isn't he?
I really like Vinny. And I do, he's so cute. And I do quite enjoy this whole him kind of trying to be a manager over the call centre and sort of failing at it and sort of desperately trying. I mean, the strike was funny. You know, it was it was a bit mad, because all these people walking out because Vinny was attempting to stop them from having like as many toilet breaks as they wanted, because, you know, we cost money or something. You know, but once that's sorted, Vinny, I think, will slowly start to kind of become a slightly better businessman. But yeah, no, Dotty is not heading towards a good place, I suspect.
No, I mean, this is what I wonder where Dotty's going to go with hurting Vinny, because she clearly can't say it to him to his face, because poor old Vinny, he's like a wounded rabbit, isn't he? Every time you say something to him, his face just goes, oh, like when they started striking, there was actual tears in Vinny's eyes, because he thought that he was basically like messing up his chance to impress his mum. I like that Suki seems to be more forgiving, because she found out about the strike and this, that, and the other, but hasn't really brought it up to Vinny, and also not used it as a kind of like a jibe when Kheerat came home. But like you, I just wonder how Dotty's going to hurt Vinny. But funny enough, it's one of those situations where I don't actually sympathise with one or the other. Of course I sympathise with Vinny, because he's like lays his heart on the line, and he just wants to be liked and loved, and he just wants to share his love with other people. But I feel for Dotty as well, because she's kind of got herself into a situation where if there wasn't ever this possibility of her and Vinny getting together, she's been kind of welcomed into this family. And so now she's got a lot of high risks, not only hurting
Yeah.
Vinny's heart, but also kind of being, as we said, being thrown out of the Panasars. So I'm kind of seeing it from both sides. I'm kind of thinking, I do feel bad for Dotty. I feel bad for Vinny. And whether you think that what Dotty's done, she's inflicted it herself or not, I think that she always tries. All she wants is almost the same as Vinny, which is why they're so perfect together. All she wants is someone to love her, someone to pay her attention, and someone for her to share her love with. So her and Vinny would be perfect. It's just for some reason they don't align very well. So I just think it's such a shame.
Yeah.
I think they'd be a great couple.
It is, but the thing is, poor Vinny, all he ever seems to be doing is trying to just impress women. But not even women that... like, he's trying to impress his girlfriend, he's trying to impress his mother.
Mum, yeah.
You know, that's basically Vinny's two goals in life at the moment. Yeah. So, trying to... and his little business in the law... Now, is he still doing that? Has that been and gone? Is he still doing his little mobile phone shop in the laundrette, or is he now just stuck in the call
I'm not sure. I mean, we've not seen the laundrette set in a while, have we? But presumably he's hired someone... I mean, that's quite a big thing to say, if he's hired someone to look after the phone... corner? I don't know really what to call it.
Yeah.
The phone area in the laundrette.
Corner, I think, is the phone cupboard.
Yeah, the phone cupboard. But that was a bit of a silly idea, and I like the fact that I think they seemingly are trying to move Vinny away from that kind of story, because it kind of kept him out of the way.
You come, Vinny.
Yeah, because he's more interesting. Vinny, I tell you what, when they're together, the Panasars, they're really interesting as a unit. Again, this is me praising the writing this week. I just think that they've just been, praising everything this week. I just like the way that their families have kind of done things together as well. Like they've all got together. It does. Yeah, I've cheered up now. I'm 39. When I turn 40, I'll do my midlife crisis, and then I'll just break down again. I'll be a right angry old badger. Yeah. I certainly will.
Welcome to Corrie Podcast next year.
No, I won't go that far. I wouldn't want to tread on certain Conversation Street's toes, because they do an excellent job. So, yes, if you're listening, welcome to the podcast. We'd love to know, before we get on to the next subject, what you guys are thinking. If you're watching us on YouTube, comment below. But also you can get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly, or on our Facebook group, just search Walford Weekly Podcast. More of the details will be at the end of the show from Rob as well. Right, so here we go. This is the big one. So we are talking about the big entrance of Sam Mitchell this week, played by Kim Metcalf. Obviously, there's the second Sam. Some people, not the true Sam, not the real Sam. For me, and I've openly said this, she's my true Sam. I have to say I prefer her. I think her stories were more interesting when I was watching EastEnders than perhaps Danielle Westbrook's Sam was. So for me, I do like the Kim Sam iteration. But what about you? Is this your Sam? Is this your true Sam? And what's been your absolute highlights this week?
Well, it was a great week, wasn't it? It was a very good first week back. Great duff on Monday with her reveal. She seems to be a very scheming woman this time around, doesn't she? And I have to say, she sort of Janine herself around the place for the first week, hasn't she? She's done more scheming and sort of plotting and sort of smirky moments than Janine's really have since she's been back since September. So I wonder if those two are going to clash at some point. I do wonder if, I have no issues with anything Sam's done, alright? I have no complaints. I've really enjoyed this week. I'm enjoying her character. And we should mention, Jack got his first duff, and I don't know how long it's been since Jack had a duff. It must have been months and months, or even years since Jack had a duff. If any of the EastEnders geeks out there, and we class ourselves in that category, but it's not an insult, but if anybody happens to know when Jack's last duff was, please stick it in the comment section below. I will be fascinated to know. But I don't want her to sort of make Janine defunct, I don't want sort of like this new scheming amazingness and Janine to sort of just falter away, because that would be wrong. But Janine wasn't even in it this week, so that's all I'm going to say about Janine. But it was great. I absolutely loved the scenes between her and Sharon. That we need to talk about that amazing line of the week that we had.
Yes,
it was a great line. There was some
it was our
fantastic
line of the
lines
week
between them. There was It was our line of the week, but it was brilliant. If we've had Brexit, we've had COVID, we don't need you here too. Fantastic. And then just chuck a glass of wine in her face just to stick the cherry on the top. That whole scene was excellent. It was like that scene was written for the gay community to just freak out over. Thank you very much, Darren Litton.
We did.
Yeah, brilliant. We did, and we'll continue to for weeks on end. That scene is going to be lip synced on TikTok for months to come.
I tell you, exactly. It was on the same realm as You Bitch You Cow, everything like that. It was just a line, and we haven't had a true line like that in such a long time. It was just a delight, an absolute delight to see these scenes, and it was so fun seeing these scenes as well between Sam and Sharon, and then later on Kat. And the kind of the infighting between them, and this weird alliance now between Sharon and Kat as well, because they're kind of both think they all three of them think they know what's best for the Mitchell clan, and I loved that. That this week.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, my only question now is because Phil had an opportunity to get himself out of prison on Monday, because we saw Keeble, I suspect, for the last time now, and he sort of just kind of enjoyed the breakfast that he got and then just sort of threw that away, and Keeble left in a huff, and told Phil that he was going to be going down forever now. So my question now is, how the hell does Phil get out of prison now? You can't tell me that Phil's going to be staying in prison for the rest of his life. That's just not going to happen. So how does he get out of prison now? I don't understand.
But because we know he does get out. We know he does because we obviously. Sorry if this is a spoiler for anyone. Maybe skip 30 seconds. But they've shown photos. They've shown photos, and of course, it's not going to be a surprise. We all know Phil's going to come back, especially now they've reintroduced like another Mitchell to the. No. I just playing it calm, just playing it cool. Playing it cool. Sorry, I'm still very overexcited. Before we start recording this second half, we listened to the Chuckle Vision theme tune, and now I've always got it. It's circling in my head the whole time. Anyway, so
it's a window into us, really, isn't it?
So. There's no hope. So I don't know how Phil gets out, other than like we said, that maybe Keeble doesn't have much to incriminate him with, and that it was all just a ploy for him to kind of, and this was her last ditch attempt. She thought she had him this time, didn't, and then basically in a couple of weeks' time she'll be like, well, you're released now because we really didn't have much on you, so we just thought this was our in to get information from you. So I think that must be it. But Phil only did that. Phil only said that he would tell the truth to Keeble or give him like his reliable sources because he wanted a breakfast with hash browns and he wanted an international phone call. I mean, the things you do, for little
things you do for a hash brown.
I thought for a hash brown, exactly.
I mean, but Sam is a very good character. I'm very excited to have her back. I love all this whole thing she's got with Ricky. Ricky, by the way, in case some people were wondering, played by exactly the same actor, but because he's a kid and kids do this, he's grown about 6 foot since we last saw him. But it's the same actor. I don't know where the hell he's been. Like he must be. I hope he's got massive grades at school now because he's not been he's not featured on the show for about a year and a half. So wherever he's been missed. Welcome back, Ricky. Now, this whole thing with Sam and Ricky, and Sam sort of using Ricky for blackmailing Jack to sort of get money and all that malarkey. Do you think that Sam is eventually going to kind of think, sort of the chink in the armour, and Ricky will sort of not worm his way in, but you know what I mean? Like he'll sort of worm his way into her affections, and she'll sort of melt and want to be his mum again, and that will then sort of kick off some sort of custody battle.
Yeah, I mean, she's using Jack at the moment, isn't she? We'll talk about it in a moment, because she's kind of ruined the whole Mitchell family. So she needs Jack's help now in order to kind of get them safe. Not just her, Kat and Sharon as well. So I'm presuming she's going to use that against Sharon and Kat as well later on. She'll say, "Oh, look what I did for you. Now you got to be nice to me. I'm a Mitchell. Let me live in the crazy cat house." I don't know. I mean, I think eventually she will want to be part of Ricky's life. But at the moment, she even said herself to Ricky, didn't she? She said, I would be no good to you. I'd be no good for you. Because, and I think Ricky kind of admired that candor by her as well. And I think that's made him like her more, which is obviously then making Jack feel more threatened. I love the fact also that Denise, had been in a very similar situation herself with Raymond, it seems to not really want much to do with this situation. Like when Jack said to Denise, I want to tell Denise, I want to tell Ricky, the truth tonight. And Denise was like, "Oh, all right then, well, I'll leave you to it then." And Jack was like, no, hang on. you can help me here. You're his mum too.
And you wonder why I question how strong Denise and Jack. No wonder they didn't show them getting married. Who cares? Would it have been worth it really to see what we've got? I think not. What I do think actually with Jack and Denise, because we've not seen a huge amount of them anyway. Ever since they really got together, Jack and Denise are hardly, the next Balaam of Walford, are they? Like, nobody really ever. I've seen support for Jack and Denise, but there's not like it's not like they give us constant scenes to remind us what a strong and immovable couple they are. And I can't help but think that, they sort of showed quite a lot of Jack and Denise this week. And it kind of felt like it was sort of, there just to remind us, oh, remember Jack and Denise are together? Well, not for long, my friends. Because obviously enter little Miss Mitchell. Basically, yeah. She, how long is it going to be before Jack is back in his old ways and just shagging any Mitchell that he can find? It's sort of Jack's MO, really, for the past 10 years, hasn't it? Just any Mitchell woman he can find. Frankly, Peggy got out by the skin of her teeth, not sleeping with Jack. I think Sam's going to worm her way back in there eventually, surely, isn't she?
It feels like that's going to happen, and I think, and to be fair, I don't hate it. I like that Jack's kind of got this kind of like unsteady side that she's, he's always got this kind of, because whenever there's a character that comes back after a long hiatus, and they've had a relationship and a child with someone who's still on the show, they always like to write them that person still has affections for, there's still something between them. Heck, they're writing it still now with Sharon and Phil. Even Sam brought it up this week how that she's noticed that like Sharon seems to be taking a more of an interest than what a friend really should, and so actually maybe Sharon should kind of back off and like let her. Sam meant herself, but also Kat ultimately kind of like have this relationship with. So I think it's going to be written that way, isn't it? Now what about Sam and Ben this week? Because they met each other in the pub, and your favourite character was there to kind of like meet her as well.
Now listen, just a little bit of a detour here. I want to briefly talk about Lewis Butler, okay? But I see potential in that man. I'm telling you now, that boy is going to be, he's, right, for a start, he clearly fancies Ben, okay? Clearly fancies Ben. Because he clearly fancies Jack. Now, Jack he isn't going to get anywhere with. So Ben, I think because Ben's all fragile at the moment. Ben's all sort of all over the place. Callum's gonna, and I think bad's gonna happen when Callum finds out about the CCTV, because CCTV actually had a role to play in this week, and Walford Police actually did their jobs for a change. It felt very jarring. Wasn't used to seeing that. Because
high definition HDTV.
High definition. Oh, was it not? Better quality than we have on the podcast. We need to find out where Walford General gets their cameras from. And Lewis gave Ben an alibi. I think we're going to have a very interesting character in young Lewis, and I want him to turn into a gay Irish Janine. I think that would be perfect. There is always this thing with soaps about the super bitch, right? And the super bitch always being quite a camp, sort of attractive woman who's like was ruthless and will do anything. And why has that never ever been applied to a relatively camp gay guy? I think that would be brilliant. And EastEnders has always sort of shied away from the more feminine gay guys over the years because it's EastEnders. And I remember when they first started bringing gay characters in, the big thing I think at the time was, well, you can't have camp people. It's very stereotypical. You need to show off. But now camp in gay people has sort of become big again, hasn't it? With RuPaul and all that sort of thing. So I would love it if Lewis turned into some kind of really sort of bitchy, evil little gay guy. I would absolutely love that. And if he wants to go in there and try and break up Balaam, bring all that on. I think that would be a fantastic role.
You're on board.
I would be. I am on board that ship. Telling you now, bring it on. Anyway, back to Sam. Go on.
If he was to break up, Balaam, do you think there's any point for Callum's character? Because I think you're right. I think if there's going to be an affair he has, it's going to be with Ben. I mean, it'd be even crazier if he sleeps with both of them behind their backs. Like that'd be very Janine-like, wouldn't it? If you think about it, if he slept with Ben and then he convinces Callum to get back at Ben, he sleeps then with Callum.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That would be a fun little story, wouldn't it?
All the awards. All the awards. Yes.
All the awards. 2023 Soap Awards are coming for you. So, do you think there is any redemption though? Because a lot of people say online that if anything should happen, that one affair should happen with Alan, there's no redemption whatsoever.
Oh please!
Do you think that's the end of it?
Of course they would. No, because what it would be is that they, look. I mean, tell you what. Look, I hope the actors got the shoulders for it, because the hate of the Ballon fans that would come for him when that episode airs. My God, the guy's going to need a missile shelter to hide from it all. But yeah, Ballon fans are strong. They love their Ballon, and I think that they would see it as Ben getting all confused, and this guy clearly being able to worm his way into his head. They'd forgive it. Absolutely. They'd forgive it, because they're another version of Mick and Linda, aren't they? They were supposed to see them as like soulmates, who are meant to be together. So it's forgivable, because at the end of the day, we wouldn't hate it if Mick and Linda eventually got back together before Mick and Liz would do it. So we'd forgive it. Anyway, we would, trust me. But anyway, back to Sam. Okay. And the scene that we were actually talking about with Ben. Let us know in the comment section below. By the way,
yes.
What do you think? What do you think Lewis is? Yeah. What do you think Lewis is here for? Because Lewis is here for a reason. I want to know what you think his purpose is. Let us know in the comment section. And if anybody agrees with me that he's going to try and break up Ballum and he's going to be a baddie, let us know. Anyway, so Sam is. The thing is, Phil brings Sam in because I think what's actually happening here was Phil has basically just accepted that he's in prison now for the rest of his life. Okay, this is his lot in life. He's accepted it. I've had a good run. I've been involved in more explosions than the fire service of London. That's fine. I've done my thing. So I will now rest of my life.
More head trauma.
Prison. I'll beat up a weak person. Yeah, more. I think my head needs a rest. I won't get as much of that in prison. So I think it's time for Phil to retire. So Phil goes to prison, and I think he's basically brought Sam in because he's not really talking to Grant at the minute. I don't think he quite trusts Grant with the businesses. So he's brought Sam in. I mean, if Sam's your best call to keep your businesses running, then the Mitchells are in trouble. But Sam comes in and talks to Ben, who has got this meeting with a guy called Jonah. Now, the reason that we were listening to the Chuckle theme tune between in the little break we did record is because Alex reckons that the guy who played Jonah looks like one of the Chuckle brothers.
He's the lost Chuckle brother. He is the lost Chuckle brother.
A lost Chuckle brother. There you go.
Yeah.
So Jonah comes in very quick because Kat and Sharon turn up as well, and basically the meeting's a mess, isn't it? Like Sharon tries to put her 2 in, Kat tries to put her 2 in, Sam tries to, and Jonah's just kind of like, well, this is a mess, isn't it? The Mitchells clearly aren't what they were once, and immediately takes advantage of the situation and basically tells them that, right, you now have to give me money to stop me putting your whole family in danger. I think was basically the run and tail of it, wasn't it? Like Jonah's basically now turned into some hitman and will take them out one by one unless they get the money that they want, which is now why Sam is now going to Jack for this blackmail plan.
Indeed. Now, can I just quickly interrupt you there, Rob, because I have exciting news. Jonah, this isn't Jonah's first rodeo on the show. He was actually in it in 1998, 24 years ago, during a storyline where same actor. And he had a money with Phil Mitchell. Yes. Wow. I just have to say, I don't know the user's name. I apologise, but it was someone on Walford Web that brought this up, and there are 2 clips as well on YouTube to show it as well. So we'll post them hopefully on our Twitter. But he's a returning character. And Annie Palmer. Do you remember Annie Palmer? Had a guy called George Palmer. They owned
the Cow on Loose Women.
The Secret Casino. She is now a panelist on Loose Women, and she started a loan sharking business, and Phil and an Irish character called Connor ran it for her, where they went from pubs to pub to pub, and they unintentionally stood on the toes of one Jonah, who was also running the same business in the same patch. And so one night he went to Phil's house and tied him up on a chair and had a few words and attacked his mum Peggy as well in the Vic. So this isn't the first time Jonah. So I mean, again,
that's pretty goddamn fan service, isn't it?
It's pretty decent.
The archivist has been earning his money this week. Yeah,
that's a heck of a deep cut, eh?
That's impressive. We like that. I was going to ask you actually whether because it seemed like Jonah was a face that the Mitchells kind of knew, and I was going to ask you, in classic days, whether we'd ever seen Jonah before. But the fact that it's the same actor, that's pretty impressive. I like that. That's very good. So excellent. We like that a lot. So what's next then? So obviously now Sam has sort of arrived, and she's kind of causing trouble already. So we've decided that she's going to eventually worm her way back into Jack's bed. That seems inevitable. Where is she going to be living? Because we kind of hypothesized that she was going to be moving into number 1, didn't we? Which seems to be a bit of a dodgy ground at the moment.
We did, but that's that's not looking likely now, because Patrick's decided on a story which we're not going to talk much about this week, but Patrick's now decided to move in because Chelsea thinks there's ghosts in number 1, the ghost of Tina and Chantel, so she won't live there anymore. So it looks as though Patrick's going to move in there with, of course, it's very not a nice place to be, really, is it? If you're going to keep
Walford.
reminding yourself, especially when you're looking at that dishwasher. So I think Patrick's moving in there with Kim. Yeah. Yes, that dishwasher door is always open. They need to close it occasionally, you know. It needs to do its job of washing dishes. What, though? They need to stop washing up.
Do you know what my thinking is, though? I think it's a technical thing, in all honesty. It's a very boring answer to this, but I actually think it's a technical thing. Because if you showed a shot of that kitchen, you wouldn't necessarily look at the dishwasher, but if the dishwasher's open, your eye goes to it, so you know that's what you're supposed to be paying attention to.
Draws your eye.
I think that's what it is. Yes, I think that's what it is. It's a directional thing.
Look at you. Look at you. You're just. This is your CV for your job at the EastEnders, isn't it, Rob? This week,
right?
This week, you are.
Right.
If you're watching EastEnders, if you're watching,
I'd be great. I'd make a great cup of tea.
What's going to happen? Yeah, tea boy. What's going to happen with Sam this week? What is going to happen with Sam? I don't know, to be honest with you. But as you've already alluded to, she's had a heck of a lot more of an impact than Janine's had. Janine's been back for 7, 8, 9 months, and Sam's done more in her week than perhaps Janine's done in her longer time. So that worries me. So I think you're right. I think they need to mix. I don't mean it nastily, but this is what we thought. What Sam's entrance is what we thought Janine's entrance was going to be.
What we thought. Yeah. Well, I'd like them to clash. In all honesty, I would like them to clash. I'm trying to remember whether Janine and Sam have any history. Because the only reason I'm really saying this is that super bitches. You know, really, we've got 3 kind of super bitches on the square now. Haven't we? In Janine, Sam, and Suki, you could argue, and Dotty to some extent as well. So there's a lot of these really sort of strong protagonists,
so many
in female roles on the square at the minute, and a bit of clashing would be quite nice, because I feel like we haven't had a strong female rivalry for so long. Like, that's missing. Considering this seems to be an era of television, even where sort of strong, iconic, meme-worthy women are sort of the flavour of the month, you would think they'd be all over trying to get these sort of really iconic catfights going. We haven't had any for a while, so I would be quite up for, whether it be Suki, whether it be Janine, whether it be Dotty, Sam versus somebody. A new rivalry. All the Jackson, all the Mitchell stuff. Yes, all that's going to happen in the background. Yes, she's going to clash with Denise because she's going to end up sleeping with Jack. We know that. Denise can hold her own, but Denise isn't really a sort of super bitch character who will go as ruthless as Sam will to get her revenge, you know? So I want something like that, because Sam, we've seen this week that Kim is absolutely slaying the role this week. She's fantastic. We love her. She's slotted it back in like a glove. Welcome back, Queen. We
loving her.
My God, you haven't aged a day. You look, in fact, if anything, you look younger. You look excellent.
Terrific.
Not aged a day, has she? She looks stunning. And the costume she's getting, vamp. I love it. But that's what I want from Sam, basically. I want her to have a really kind of real sort of huge kind of rivalry with one of the other super bitches on the square. That's my wish.
I completely agree with you, and you're completely right about there being such a strong female cast. And there's a comment on that, actually. We'll talk about that maybe on I Don't Want to Gossip after we finish this discussion, because there's a comment on our Twitter today about that. So I'd like to talk to you about that. Do you think that with Sam, they're trying to taking it down the Peggy direction? Because I don't think it's a coincidence that they seem to be dressing her a little bit like Peggy. They're kind of giving her the same kind of this bold brass, but behind it, she's very vulnerable. Yeah, I'm getting that kind of vibe. And it's making me wonder still if she's going to end up getting the Vic.
Well, this is the other thing. I think once that could be the perfect thing, couldn't it? Janine versus Sam for the Vic. That'd be perfect, wouldn't it? Because we don't know how Nick's exit is going to play out, so we don't really know what's going to happen with the Vic, what the Carters are going to do about the Vic. Potentially, there's some really huge, big stuff on the horizon. Potentially, All right, they might go in a different direction with it and do other stuff, but the way I see it, there is a lot of potential rivalry and a lot of potential sort of kind of almost land ownership wars kind of coming just between the women of Walford. That's an exciting time, isn't it? That's an exciting era because we're used in EastEnders to seeing all of the sort of, you know, Mitchells or whatever sort of like, this is my meadow, this is my garden. But to have that with the women of Walford who are more than capable of holding their own, bring it on, I say. So yeah, I reckon that I would not be surprised at all if Sam starts to have her eye on the Vic. Why wouldn't she? And imagine, that's perfect as well, because imagine Janine looks at it and goes, well, my dad owned that, so that's mine rightfully. And Sam can look at it and go, well, my mum owned that, so that's mine rightfully. Hot damn! That's you got it written there, haven't you? It's already written.
It writes itself.
I'll write it. Yes. Let us know in the comment section what your comments are for Sam. Let us know what the future is. We shall have a look at some of your comments right now on I Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
So this week you've been getting in touch with us on our Twitter, our Instagram and our Facebook group and our email. We've got lots of comments and unfortunately we don't have time to read them all out. We have so many, but do keep getting in touch with us. We do try to read out as many as we can at the end of the show. We do love you. We got one from Chaos on Twitter who had written, and this is what we were just talking about, absolutely owned by strong female characters and the actors who play them. They're awesome and I love them. But the male characters have been abysmal. A dearth of pathetic losers. Billy, Rocky, Vinny, Martin, Bobby, Peter, Jack has the personality and charisma of paint.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's a bit harsh,
Wow.
but I have to say, like we were saying ourselves, that like the females are really taking over now. Like there's so many interesting stories and they tend to be female-led.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, one thing I do want to briefly say, because the mention of Jay reminded me there. Monday, we actually got Ben and Jay having scenes together for the first time in so long. Like, they've remembered that Ben and Jay were supposed to be close. Loved that. Can I have more of that, please? Because that's a great friendship. Never lose that. Thank you. Well, you say this about women. You could argue quite easily that the genre of soap has always been led by strong women. If you look at the genesis of Coronation Street, and listen to any sort of interview by Tony Warren, who created it, it's always been around the women. You know, Ina Sharples, Elsie Tanner, and then you go across to EastEnders, you've got Pat, you've got Peggy. You've the whole plethora of ridiculously strong female characters. It's always the women that you remember in soaps, in any soap. Mercedes McQueen in Hollyoaks, Mandy Jordash in Brookside, you know, Kim Tate in Emmerdale. All the really strong kind of female characters are always the ones that jump to your brain. So when you've got a great mix of female characters, which the show has got at the moment, we have been, yes, ever so slightly critical over the past year or so of some of the stories and some of the writing. Yes, we've done that. We said our bit, but we always compliment
some of the special effects
when we've enjoyed something. Yes. But we always compliment when we enjoy something. And this week was one of those weeks. And this week really, really showed how strong the female cast is at the minute. So the fact that they've got all this together, they've got a great young cast, which we've discussed previously. And now they've got a really good set of female characters together. Even characters that weren't even really in it this week. You know, Linda, Nancy. You know, there's the Carter women, they're all great. Shirley, Jean, Stacey, Kat. Kathy's, is of the old stalwarts. You know, there's so many great female characters in EastEnders at the moment. So, you know, Suki, everybody, bring them all on. But yeah, the influence of female characters is never going to go away in soaps. It's the bread and butter of soaps. You know, you cannot run a soap just with the testosterone of the Mitchell men. You know, EastEnders has never been about that. So yeah, too right.
Did you brought it up, so I'm going to ask, did you, well, I suppose I brought it up because you said so. Did you think that, did you miss at all the lack of special effects this week? Because if it'd been maybe a few months back, Jean having that episode in the jewellery shop, you just know there would have been spinning cameras and there would have been music.
Yeah, not even that. Not even that. You know for a fact that Chelsea's little moment in the house would have, you would have had CGI Tina standing there before her. You would have had CGI Chantel wandering around going, all of that. So obviously, what a ridiculous, all of that. What a ridiculous question. Of course, I didn't miss that. Jean especially, actually, of course I didn't. I didn't. I've always kicked off massively whenever they've done all that. In fact, you complimented this rubbish a few weeks ago when Linda downed radioactive waste and started hallucinating everywhere. You loved that, even though that was essentially of the same ilk. So, of course I didn't miss all of that. And the Jean story in particular, yes it was. In Jean's storyline in particular, I think that they've massively avoided that because you are sort of intrigued as to what is going on inside Jean's mind at the moment, and normally the answer to that is to sort of, I'll tell you what's going on in Jean's mind. Pipes banging against metal. That's what's going on in Jean's mind, and we should play them loudly over the scene to demonstrate that and illustrate it. And they've avoided that, and Jean's storyline, therefore, has been ridiculously strong, and we've been really enjoying it. So I, frankly, have nothing but nice things to say about EastEnders this week. It's been fantastic.
I was just going to end quickly on one last comment from Stephen Patterson before Rob gives you the details how you can get in touch with us. So, and this kind of sums up how brilliant it was. Basically, Stephen Patterson said on Twitter, legit can't think of any lows. A truly wonderful week, and Sam's return has been everything I could have hoped for and more. Utterly superb. So I think that's our sentiments exactly. Rob, how can people get in touch with us and tell us how much they loved this week as well?
Well, frankly, Alexander, they can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly, and they can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, they should not forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of their favourite podcast sites. Email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. Thank you very much for a fabulous podcast, Alex. That was great.
Thank you,
enjoyed it. And thank you for a great week, EastEnders. And I hope you enjoyed this week's Walford Weekly too. Don't forget to join us next Saturday when we shall be discussing Sam Mitchell's second week upon the square. Let's see if any of our predictions come true. Until then, it is goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him. Goodbye.
Goodbye.